As they drove out of here this morning, I looked out the window and it was a very unique sky, clouds in the distance, reflecting the sunrise. But I don't know, I could feel like there's big stuff for healing. That's what I felt when I saw the sky. The reddish clouds covered over by the dark clouds right around it. Now, as we're starting here, there's also a thunderstorm. So it's like, all right, what are we going to get into tonight? A few of you might recognize the storm. It's no little accident when these sort of symbols show up. And we learn that our thoughts make the outside world. Not sort of, not kind of, but literally, they literally make the outside world, the world that we perceive. Projection makes perception. That's what we're learning in the course. So just like these sort of clouds and storm that have been showing up physically, perceptually, we can use what we experience as an indicator, a reflection of what's in the mind. So this is helpful. We can use what we experience in our body to see what's going on in our mind. If we really get that we're projecting this world and showing us what's in our perception, well, this body is in this world that we're projecting. So it's time to get curious. What does this ache? What is this pain revealing to me about what's in my mind? What is the storm, not that's brewing outside, but what is the storm that's brewing here? There might not be rain falling on your head, but there might be rain inside you falling, or thunder and lightning, rumblings. Well, rather than bemoan our fate, rather than curse the gods that didn't really do this to you, we can use this experience. We could step out of the poor me and into the, what is this telling me? What is this showing me? What do I want? What do I want? And to get really present with that question. And Jesus says in the Course, he tells us what we want. He says, I want the peace of God. That's our workbook lesson. I want the peace of God. All right. Well, that's good. That's good to know. But then he has kind of a humdinger right after that. He says, to say these words is nothing. To say these words is nothing. I want the peace of God. But to mean these words is everything. To mean these words is the answer. So do you mean these words? Do you mean that you want the peace of God? Well, if none of you wanted the peace of God, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here in our gathering. But if all of you wanted the peace of God, it would be all that you experienced. So what does that tell you? It tells you you flip back and forth. You go in and out. You say yes, then no. And that is not fun. It's not fun, not a good thing to do. It's not a sin, but it's not what you really want. So you could say our practice is getting in touch with what you really want, so that you can say and mean these words, I want the peace of God. The problem is, pretty much everybody here is going to say those words, but then you're also going to say, and I want that other person to do something different so I can be happy. No, no, don't do it. Don't fall for that trap. Because all of a sudden that peace of God is out the window. You can't have your foot on both sides of that line. A rider cannot mount two horses, and an archer cannot bend two bows. This is Jesus telling us we can't have a split allegiance. It doesn't work. It doesn't bring us the peace that we want. So I like to think of the Course as a practice of radical honesty in ourself. What is it that I want? And if I'm wanting something other than perfect peace and happiness, why? What's going on there? Some of the people here in the group have experience as a therapist or as a, person experiencing therapy. And what happens in therapy? Well, we want to get curious. We want to get curious why a part in your mind doesn't want peace, doesn't want happiness. I mean, that's an odd thing to not want happiness, to actually want unhappiness. That's really what it is. If it's happiness or not happiness is being unhappy. Well, in America, they have a manual for this. It's called like the manual of mental disorders, basically. The therapists read this, the DSM. Oh boy. I want to suffer. I want to be unhappy. That's not healthy. But it means that there's something for us to explore. And once we know there's something to explore, we really want to see what's going on. We think of sort of the early psychologists like Freud. He was intensely curious about the minds of the people he was working with. He was intensely curious. He really wanted to understand. He wanted to get down deep inside their mind to see what was underneath so that it could be healed and it could come back into peace and harmony. But fairly early on, Freud had a big shock. What was his shock? He realized that his patients didn't want to get well. They didn't want to get well. Here they were spending all this time with him, looking at their dreams, talking about their problems, seeming to want to get better. But there was a big part of them that did not want it. They were fighting their own healing. Well, that wasn't just a few patients of Freud's, I'm telling you. You look in the mirror to see who does that. And again, not with condemnation, not to judge yourself or say, oh, look at me, I'm a horrible person. I don't even want my own healing. No. But just to get really clear, there's that famous line, I have found the enemy, and the enemy is myself. Well, again, we don't want to fight ourselves, but it's really good to see what's going on. As long as we're seeming to battle people outside, situations that befall us against our will, it's a hopeless situation. We can't address a situation until we really know what's happening. Once we know who the man behind the curtain is, then we can actually make something change. And most of you maybe know the movie, The Wizard of Oz. Big, scary, mean wizard, frightening the people who come to visit him. But what happens? He's just a little man behind the curtain, pulling some levers and pushing some buttons. Well, what is the man behind your curtain? It's this belief system that is not serving you. And until we see what's going on, we really have no hope of changing just a projection on the screen. And it's good to think of it like a projection on the screen, like in a movie theater. If you were in a movie theater and someone watching the movie with you got up and rushed at the screen because they didn't like what was going on in the movie, you would say, that person is not well. That person is trying to change the projection, which is impossible. It's not going to change. No matter how much that person rips at the screen, cuts at it, yells at it, attacks the screen, the images are just going to keep being projected because they're not going where they're coming from. This is kind of the sad state of humanity. This is the sad state that we're all in, but it's a sad state of our own making. This is where the hope comes in. Once we start to catch on that this is what's happening, then we can go to the projector room. Then we can start to look at the film. We can start to, use the miracle. The miracle is our only opportunity to affect time. So it's like we take the film out and the Holy Spirit clips it with some scissors and sticks it back together shorter. Well, that sounds pretty good. You mean there's a part of that film I don't need to see anymore? Yes. That's what he's saying. How do we do this? Well, we look at our grievances, we look at our upsets, we look at our fears with compassion, with kindness, with humility, with the desire for them to heal. And over again, we just watch how Holy Spirit cuts that film, clips those parts out. We don't have to do that part anymore. And Jesus isn't talking about just a couple little frames with the clips. He says a miracle can substitute for learning that may have taken thousands of years. Thousands of years. One miracle. A miracle can literally cut that much time out of your seeming story. Well, hallelujah. That's some good news. Let's get doing some miracles here. And how do we do that? Well, again, we get very humble, but we get very focused on what we want. Upsets are going to come. Situations are going to unfold that don't seem ideal. That's what happens here in a dream world. It's built on fear and sin. But what are you going to do with it? What is it for? You can literally say to every situation, upsetting, happy, great, troubling, terrifying, peaceful, you can say to every situation, I want to use this situation for my awakening. I want to remember the Christ that is my true nature. If you bring that attitude to your upset, you're doing the right thing. You can be very determined about this. That determination will serve you so well. It will eliminate thousands of years of suffering. Really. It's not an exaggeration. That that is a stone cold message from Jesus to us. He's saying, "Do you want this? This is what's going to happen if you do this. Do you want it? Or do you want to be upset at that guy over there? Or that thing that happened 20, 30 years ago? Maybe you don't want to let that grievance go." And he's just laying it out for us. He can't make that decision, but he can explain that that is the decision. He can explain really clearly what our options are. And then we just get to say which one we want. Which one do you want? Which one do you want right now? Do you want the peace of God? Or do you want something else? I know which one I'm voting for. But again, we can't experience it unless we bring up the dark, unless we bring up the sludge, the shadow on our heart. It has to come up, it has to come out, it has to be seen. We can't hold on to that and remember the pure light of love. So let's look at some sludge. Let's bring it out, not to make it real, but to let it heal. I just have to say that this looking at the sludge, this looking at the muck, it's not pleasant. I don't think there's anyone here who likes it, to look at anger, fear, feeling like a victim, feeling unfairly treated. It doesn't feel pleasant, but there's no other way. There's no other way. Anyone who tells you there's another way, they're doing you a disservice. The good news is that this sludge, this muck, doesn't have any power in itself. Doesn't have any power over you. Doesn't have the ability to keep you from healing it. But you have to decide that this is what you want to do. I was meditating before we started, and I got this image of a person stuck in a swamp, like a muddy swamp. And they're really stuck. And somebody was there holding out a hand to offer help. But the person in the swamp was just focused on the mud. Focused so much on the mud, talking about the mud, how the mud looked, how it was upsetting, how it was fearful. And the person holding out the hand says, "You just have to lift one leg up out of the mud as much as you can and step forward." And it wasn't easy for that person in the mud. They had to really try. They had to use all of their might because it was so sticky. And they wanted to just keep complaining about the mud and expressing how unpleasant the mud was and how it felt and how tough it was. But the only way out was to use all that might, to lift that leg and to take a step. And then to do that again, actually. And I say that as we're kind of beginning to open up into expressions or sharings, to really emphasize that looking at the mud, talking about the mud, is not how you get out of the mud. It can be helpful if you've been in denial about the mud. We don't want to be in denial, but we don't want to be fixated on the mud. We don't want to be captivated by the mud. We want to find our will to heal and cling to it like it's a life preserver in the ocean. Because it is. It's that important. It's that necessary. So let's grab onto that life preserver. And let's open it up. If someone here has something they'd like to expose, explore, look at with the light of love.
My heart is pounding, so I'm thinking, oh my gosh. It's funny that you were talking about that we project what we believe. And this morning, sitting outside, I have a bird, a hummingbird feeder. And they are always fighting. So they really attack because one hummingbird, it's mine. He don't want that others also drink from it. And I was pondering about it. My goodness, okay, I am projecting this. So it means that I still believe in attack. And yesterday evening, I couldn't sleep, and I was listening to David, and he was talking about if you still have body problems, you still believe that you are guilty, and that is attack. The ego attacks seemingly the body. I'm thinking, what the fuck? How do I let go the guilt? And when you were talking, suddenly I remembered yesterday the taxi driver. He was a little bit lost finding this place, and when I stepped in, he immediately said, I'm so sorry. I said, it's okay. It's totally okay. You are here now. And every time when we were talking, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So when you were talking, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I still believe. I still believe that I am really guilty. And yeah, so it's what came up is perhaps a more, I don't know how the healing goes. I don't know how it goes away. Intellectually, I know I'm not guilty, and I'm not in touch with that deeper guilt. So on the surface, I had a lot of guilt. I grew up with guilt, but that's gone. So it must be deeper. And I have no clue how that works. I really want to trust that there will come a moment that it is that I don't get those reflections in that way anymore. And I really can see, for me, it's really embrace that what I feel in my heart, I can trust that. And sometimes I still want to push it away. But yesterday, okay, I felt I didn't want to walk. And when I was walking in Walmart, and I had a big list. And suddenly I felt so strongly, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm only focusing on fruit and vegetables. Don't buy too much. You can order the rest. And because I went with a taxi first to the bank, and it's across Walmart. So I was thinking, when I was ready, coming out of Walmart, what do I do? Shall I call a taxi? Because at that moment there were no taxis outside. And I was pondering about it because this character don't want to give too much money away to taxi drivers. And when I think I walked just 8 steps outside, and I was pondering, shall I not? Because it was still I felt it was still a bit too much what I bought to really walk home. And at that moment, I was praying. A taxi came
Yeah.
and he was free. And I felt, because I saw it's almost Christmas and a lot of people here get Christmas tips. And I felt to give him a huge
Mm.
Christmas tip. And I was so happy. I was so happy. And I was thinking, this morning I was thinking, I really need to trust my feelings. And if I do that, because I listened to, it was a little snippet of Jenny about following guidance.
Mm.
And I was thinking, yeah, that is what I did yesterday. I
Mm.
took a taxi to that way and a taxi back. And I really don't want to care about the money because that's still an issue for me. Even I have a steady income because I'm with pension, but still want to control the money. So I
Mm.
really want to be more relaxed and also with another place. I can stay here at least next month still.
I just want to say, Joni, yeah, that's beautiful that you had these sort of fear thoughts. You had lack thoughts in your mind
Yeah,
around money.
yeah,
But the joy came when you let all that go and you just gave money with your heart to the taxi driver. That was where the joy was. It was in
yeah,
letting go of the fear and
yeah.
just feeling the genuine gratitude and connection.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
beautiful. I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think all of these things, you don't have to actually worry about trying to find the guilt around the separation from God. Any
Mm,
any challenging situation is showing you that.
mm,
So you can work on that guilt by working with the specifics that show up in your life.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Someone else have something in their heart or on their mind?
Thank you, Barret.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
It's really a beautiful environment. Thank you for what you've created. It's so welcoming.
Mm.
Um, if I open up a big can, we can close it up anytime, but I'll just say in general,
Hmm.
my life is in a really good place in terms of stability, and yet I feel like I want to move towards community. And I've been a loner my whole life with a background of trauma, sort of regular, well, I don't even know how regular, but just the type of trauma that prevented me from opening my heart without feeling like very often when I opened it, it would just get shut down really quickly. So that's a childhood experience that repeated itself in my adulthood. And now I'm like I see it, I get the mechanism, I feel the pain. If I open my heart, it gets slammed. And I want to inch towards finding community because I live like a lone wolf in a way, very isolated with one or two good friends. But I'm thinking, wow, it'd be so nice to be connected. I don't know why. I think it's a movement that I imagine the world wants to move towards because we're so isolated from the trauma of modern life in a way that disconnects us from nature. So my question, I guess, is yeah, I'm afraid that as I move towards a community, check it out a little bit, I'm so afraid of getting trapped, like making commitments and then being stuck and having to keep my commitments and thinking, wow, maybe this isn't the right environment or maybe I chose wrong. How do I find my people? and not live in such an isolated way, which is comfortable. But hey, how about more love? So that's
Mm.
where I'm coming from.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for putting forward your thoughts and your fears around this. I think it's very much about looking at what's in the mind. And the community is just a mirror, just like friends are a mirror, or society is a mirror, family is a mirror, just to show you what is coming up for you. So already, even with these thoughts, kind of even the very beginning thoughts around community, it's a mirror showing you what the fears are. Maybe the fears are around connecting deeply. Fears are around trusting other people. Fears are around the future. But I think we can work with it even right here and now, because the fear is here, right here and now. You know, how you expressed about the heart and feeling it, that when there's an opening, all of a sudden something painful happens. So there's sort of an avenue here that if you're interested, we can explore together a bit.
Yes, absolutely. I'm interested, yes.
Yeah.
And maybe a course correction, not as afraid as I used to be about opening up and getting hurt. I can recover from that. It's a fear of making a commitment and then being trapped, thinking,
Mm.
oh, this is the wrong commitment, the wrong course I took, or the wrong people I promised to get involved with. That sort of making a mistake and then feeling like my word has to be good, so I won't make a commitment, because if I do and I get trapped, I'm stuck. It's more that dynamic that I'm thinking about, which is really
Mhm.
strange. Yeah.
And how do you feel in yourself as you talk about that?
Oh, I love that. Look at my hands.
Mhm.
I'm holding tight,
Mhm.
holding my heart and my voice, my throat, I guess, like covering up. Yeah, I'm afraid.
Mhm.
What am I afraid of? That I'm wrong
Mhm.
for being the way. Ooh, tears are even coming up now. That's crazy. That I'm wrong for being the way I am, that I've done something wrong, that I can't what?
Yeah.
I'm losing touch now of those feelings.
Just stay with the feeling. It's
Okay.
the fear that you're wrong for how you are.
Yeah. That if I expose myself and let people see me, that I'm going to regret it and want to do this and say, oh my God, I shouldn't have opened up. I shouldn't have let myself be vulnerable.
Mhm.
And that feels so true, because again, the tears
Yeah.
are just behind the eyes.
Do you have a feeling of kind of the age of where this feeling is?
Ooh. Wow. Uh, I can't pinpoint it right this second, but it feels young.
Mhm.
Like it feels long standing.
Yeah.
If it comes back again and I can pinpoint the age, I'll blurt it out. But right now I
Yeah.
can't. It's
It's just
childhood.
it's just helping you stay with it, even to think about it a bit. Because regardless of what the exact or approximate age is,
Mm,
think of this young you, this
mm.
young girl, and you can kind of ask her, like, what is it that she needs? What is she asking for here?
I think I put my finger on it immediately. Someone to say, or everyone, or someone to say, "Oh my gosh, you're so interesting. Come play with us."
Mm.
Something like that. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
fun to be with. Let's, you know, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's play.
Yeah. Yeah. Something around a little girl maybe getting turned away from some friendship connection or
Yeah.
yeah.
For being different, for being very, very different, or wired differently, or for having different thoughts, for just being strange. Wow.
Yeah. It feels like there's even more here that I don't think will come out in this joining on this session, but I encourage you to maybe come back to this, and look at it and spend some time with this part of you, these feelings that are here.
That's that was a helpful opening. Thank you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate your openness and your presence with your feelings.
Yeah. Appreciate your support.
Yeah. Because as we look at these things, as we look under the surface of what's going on, then the sort of practical questions, they start to get more simple and clear as far as things like community or steps in your life or whatever. When the emotions can come up and move through, then the way forward just gets more natural and
Mhm.
simple to see.
That sounds really promising and true.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it didn't work for us to have a bigger talk about some of those sorts of things tonight, but I know we'll join with you more about those things soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Peter?
Hi. So when you gave your introduction, I just talk about being stuck in the mud. I assumed that's what I was.
Mm.
And it felt like a bit like the last session I had. It's like this feels like an opportunity. And there's a part of me desperate to heal.
That's
And,
beautiful.
and I feel very fearful. And I could feel not wanting to speak. And it almost amounted to the fear of being humiliated or something like that. That I wasn't going to be able to do this, or I've got to be able to do this. So I could be more specific about something.
I think actually you're doing pretty good here just by sticking with your feelings. I feel like you're kind of on the track.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's like, wow. Yeah, the need for that acknowledgement,
Mm.
acute need for that acknowledgement, I would say.
Mm.
Yeah, I could see just, yeah, like what I was doing wasn't good enough or something.
Mm.
And then you acknowledged it. I felt really emotional. That feels like something I don't really want to be seen. This incredibly needy child. It felt like,
I don't think most of us would judge a needy child.
Yeah.
I don't think you would.
But it's quite a desperate, dependent place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I've heard Jenny share about her, mistreatment when she was young. And I've heard her say things like, how could no one have seen what I was going through?
Yeah.
How could no one have kind of gotten drift of what was happening, caught on? Because, as a child, you don't have the resources or the connections or the ways to get support for something really awful like that.
So what are you saying there?
Well, you wouldn't blame a child for being
No.
needy and scared and desperate and trying to
Yeah.
cope with something really no one can handle.
It's still happening somehow. That's what the same place is coming up.
Yeah, but this time you're using it. You're doing your best to hand it to spirit. You know what it's about. I mean, in a bigger sense, you know that this is a part of the healing. I'm speaking to you in a comforting way, like a loving adult would to a child who had been harmed.
I'm really appreciating the being able to unfold this, because I don't really know. This place of desperate to be loved in just a very simple way. It's just the very simple thing. Like yesterday when I was trying to sell the car and she said she wasn't going to buy it. And I said I was disappointed. I felt really disappointed. And she just touched me on the arm. And I didn't feel like full sympathy. It felt like just like you were being with me.
No, it sounds very sweet.
It was very sweet. Very sweet. I really got it. And I knew she understood something. She recognized me. I could go back to the past and just say it wasn't safe to, and I didn't start crying or anything yesterday, but I probably wanted to. Something here that I don't, you said why you wouldn't be critical of a needy child. I'm critical of my needy child. That's obvious then.
Yeah, that's because you don't really see the full picture.
Is that what you're talking about, being stuck in the mud?
Well,
Seeing your true nature.
I think you're learning. You're learning, actually. A loving parent has to kind of learn how to be that way. I actually think, in a way, you're learning how to be loving when your needy child is there, rather than being hard with it.
Afterwards, I was very fearful And then I meditated on it, and it took me a while, but I felt peaceful. And even for quite a while, I could really see that this was just healing, and this was meant to be, and it was all for the good.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the rest of the day, I felt that I got upset because I suddenly thought of this woman, and I knew I just went for a walk in the dark, and it was very acute kind of neediness was there, that I just seeing her, I could feel that wanted to come up, and I just wept. It's I can feel that there's this place here now, and I can feel like it's hard for me to stay here with it.
You
It's
don't even have to. You don't have to judge that, Peter.
No, okay. I'm just aware that I can feel this. Yeah, okay. So I want to heal it now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, but the desire for healing is enough.
So were you referring to me about being stuck in the mud? That I've really taken that on.
I think I was referring to whoever it it applied to. No need for everyone to raise their hands, so it's okay.
But yeah, it's good to laugh about it, but in the same thing, in the same place, that's how vulnerable I am to taking on all these attacks, if you like.
Your critical mind is very sharp. And you tend to believe it a lot more than you need to. I mean, you don't really need to ever believe it, but there are people who go and watch a horror movie and they just like laugh through the whole thing. They watch it for their own amusement. They don't believe the scary things that are showing up. Scary sounds and scary characters. And I think if you even start to practice that a bit more, that when these scary thoughts show up in your head, to treat them like an amusing horror movie, I think that could help. Because it's when you start to buy into them that it really gets hard.
Yeah. Well, I could feel it even as you were speaking. I've done it wrong again.
It's a skill, though. It's a thing you can practice.
Well, I do it through meditating on it. That feels like that's been working recently with a lot of intense fear, and somehow I can see it's not as true as I thought.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that's good. I would just offer to you that at least a certain amount of the time, you can just laugh it away, like basically right away, rather than diving in and feeling it fully and,
Okay.
letting it circulate until it's done. And I think if you practice that at least some of the time, you'll start to get a sense of when it's one way and when it's the other way. Because I think in these long meditations that you do, you often suffer as a part of it. And I think you can kind of cut a big chunk of that out of your experience if you just something like nip it in the bud more often. It's different than denying and resisting. It's like a simple,
That's my fear.
it's like a
Yeah.
simple rejection because you're so willing, Peter, to sit with these things. I feel you do it a lot. So this is not really your problem. Your problem is not denying, resisting, covering things over. Your problem is getting stuck in it. So I think your day will be a bit brighter in general if you, again, part of the time, just say no thank you when that shows up. I'm handing you right to spirit and I'm gonna go do the dishes or go do the next thing in your day,
Right.
go pick a flower. I don't know.
Pick a flower sounds good. Yeah. I can feel a lot of resistance around what you're saying in the same way that I felt it the last group,
Mm-hmm.
the last group I spoke.
Because we're talking about kind of like a shift in your processing pattern.
Yeah.
And you have a bit of a concept around your processing pattern. This is where you're fighting it a bit, but
Yeah.
you also have the desire to change how it's been. And that's even stronger.
And I think there's something about not trusting and I've got to do it myself or something like that. There's something like that.
Yeah, but you can question that too.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll come back to you when I'm.
You got a bouquet of flowers.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard what you said and it feels true. And part of me just goes, I don't know I can do that or trust it. Or,
Yeah.
I don't want to suppress like I did decades ago, like I did massively.
Yeah. I don't think it's possible that you'll ever do that again. I don't think you'll go into repression.
Okay, well, thanks. You've put a door there for me,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm kind of, but it feels true.
And to connect to the last session, it's like the door is like the hand.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I got the hand, but I also
Yeah.
felt like there is this, I don't know if it's true, this tremendous, a lot of fear of being controlled somehow, whether it's guidance or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just want to offer to you, Peter, that this message comes from you.
That feels true, and I want you to explain that to me. But yeah, that feels right.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a short circuit your fear of being controlled, and it is the truth.
Yeah. Okay. So I can feel some things moving around, and that feels good because I can feel there's a lot of holding on.
Yeah. Yeah. Give it a go. See how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I love you, Peter.
Barret.
Hey. So you can just sort of take a moment here and just really connect back in to what's going on right now. Lucy.
Hey,
Hey,
hey.
welcome back.
Yeah, I think I did the stuck in the mud story to be me.
All
But
right, so Peter.
huh? What did you say?
It wasn't just Peter.
It's probably probably everyone. Um, I still have this pain in my head, and I kind of was trying to look at what you were saying and thinking, what is it still? Like it's gotten less. It has gotten less, but what is it? Like what is underneath all of it? And if it's if I'm a projection myself, then it's guilt that I'm putting on myself. Is that right? My guilt that I'm putting on this character.
Right, the guilt in the mind has to be placed somewhere. And that's why not you, Lucy, but the mind, the one mind that seemed to split off, made up a world of bodies. And one of the characters was called Lucy. And that guilt has been placed onto that character in a form of headaches.
Yeah.
But if we step back through that, then we come to see that there's no cause for a headache. There's no cause for pain of any kind. Why? Because you never really left pure love and tried to do your own thing. Not really. And that remembering is always it. That's always what's going on when there's some problem, some issue, some pain. And as you know from our joinings, there's sometimes an intermediate thing where it gets stuck that may be connected to the story of Lucy. Some painful thought, feeling, memory that a part of you doesn't want to go to. And it spends a lot of energy to try to get away from. And then you have headaches. We talked about it as like these sort of pain pockets in the mind that are so intense that there's almost like a seeming electric fence around the outside of them. And as you start to get closer, because the healing will bring you into those pain places, as you start to get closer, you start to feel zapped by these electric fences that you've concocted as protection around us. And so then you say, oh no, I have a headache, something must be going wrong. But if you have the desire for healing, it's like a part of the process to get to what really happened, to move through the outer defenses into the core of the healing of the issue. So it's not so much a sign that something's going wrong as a sign that you're moving towards the healing that you're asking for. What's needed in those times is your remembrance of what you want. Because when you are holding Spirit's hand and you have that strong determination, you will go through the electric fence. You will go through it to what's underneath. And then the shift can really unfold. If you don't get through the fence, then you're just struggling with the outer defense. You go into the pain, you try to get away from the pain. You go into the pain, you try to get away from the pain. It's exhausting. I know you know that. And I know you've gotten through some of your electric fences. And we've done that together. but you're still working on it. So determination is the answer. There's a beautiful section of the Course about this. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
It feels like I'm trying to look for it as well. Like I'm trying to dig all the time rather than relying on spirit to bring it to my awareness and show me. So feels like I'm trying to dig to find what's wrong so that it can go away. But that just makes it worse because then I'm rehashing something like, you know, like the past, or like I'm like, what happened? What is it about? Like,
yeah,
had this image because I've been watching Harry Potter recently, and I had this image of the being petrified. Where I was meditating of Hermione when she's petrified, and then she kind of comes back after being petrified, and I was like, that's like my mind, because it feels like it's stuck, like it's just kind of rehashing old things to find out what's wrong. Like literally petrified in the past, but instead of being shown in the present.
Yeah. And when the readiness matches that desire for healing, the healing just opens up. It just unfolds. But like you're expressing, if there is still something that's, I think of it sometimes like the healing is like fruit. You know, you can pick fruit off the tree before it's ripe, but it's not good. It's not ready. It's not really right. And when we're trying so desperately to kind of get it out or figure it out, or it's like that. It's like trying to get the fruit before it's time. But when the fruit is ready, and we can cultivate this readiness, within, but when the fruit is ready, it just falls off the tree. And it's perfectly flavored. It's exactly what we want.
That's gentle.
So again, we want to nourish the tree, you know, so that it can bear the fruit of healing. And we do that by our willingness, by our desire to be right-minded, by our willingness to face our feelings and express about them, by our willingness to hold the hand of the people that we trust.
Yeah, I noticed this kind of layer, like that's kind of recently shifted around feelings and emotions, and how stuck I have been in my family. You know, there's this whole layer of superficialness that's just so thick, and so much distraction, like from anything going, and like even penetrating like the tiniest deeper, you know, and I have had here like big outbursts because I can't stand it. Like I can't stand and I've gotten really angry, and there's guilt for that. But then I think like, well, I literally can't stand it anymore. Like so I don't know, I just want to be gentle with that, because I feel like there's a whole layer that is slowly coming off, which is to do with hiding emotion and suppressing and not being authentic, and you know, just like pretending basically. And distraction.
Yeah, it's good to see all that. There's not just unconsciousness throughout most of the world, but there's an attachment to unconsciousness, protection of unconsciousness.
Yeah, because then it's like all the happy things, you know, like Christmas is coming and presents and this and that, and like it's like true joy, like what is like, or true peace, like doesn't feel like it doesn't like it's like such a craving for something deeper, like that is impossible to stand anymore. Like I'm not going to be here for Christmas, so I can't. But the ego can trick me because then it's like, why aren't you happy? You know, like everyone else.
Yeah, but it's more like when you start to see through it, it just doesn't do it anymore. A story of happiness is not happy when it's just covering over a story of sadness that people don't want to discuss, or a story of anger that can never be looked at. I mean, that's what Jesus talks about. You know, you can put lipstick on a skeleton, but can you make it live? If you just cover over these sort of dark and sad and lonely places, it doesn't feel good. But the world is used to doing that. But you don't have to be used to doing that. You know, the light has come. It's not the light is coming. The light will come someday. And Jesus doesn't say that. He says the light has come. And there's a depth to that, you know, the kind of normal stories of the world, they just can't touch. Because they don't want to touch, because they're actually designed to not get in touch with that depth. I keep coming back to that scene in Matrix number 4, where Trinity is back in the Matrix and Neo is reaching out to her. I mean, did you see that one? Did we watch that together? Yeah. No, you
I've
didn't.
seen it. I've seen
You've
it.
seen it. Yeah. I mean, her Matrix family tries to keep her in the Matrix in that scene. They come in and they try to drag her back in. And she says, "Don't call me that anymore. I hate that name." And she says no. And what do? They attack her. This loving family. It turns out it was just a farce. It was just a cover over a desire to stay asleep. We had someone who was thinking to come to community, and he started to see this. We actually called him Neo because he was so clear about wanting to leave the Matrix and seeing how it all worked. But he was also so new. He was afraid to take all the steps he needed to. But it's like that. It's really like that. The Matrix wants to keep you asleep. The Matrix wants to keep you in the Matrix. I know a guy who's really into the Course that he wanted to make it more accessible. He used the Matrix to talk to people about the themes of projection and how it's not really happening and how we need to come back to the truth in our mind. You know, in the movie, they didn't have any compunction about shooting the bad guys because they weren't real and they knew it. They knew it was just a simulation. There was no real death. Now, we don't obviously do that physically, but in our mind, we take these steps. We realize we have to die to the old way of being. That's the only way we come into life, with a capital L, life. We start to truly live. We've done the sleepwalking. It is mind-numbing, it is boring, it's soul-crushing. But we don't have to keep sleepwalking through life. That's awful. You know, what do you do with someone who's sleepwalking? You kind of shake them a little bit. Wake up. You're asleep. Wake up. Well, sometimes we need a little gentle shake. Let's wake up. You don't want to be asleep. Not really. And as we sit with this, as we really feel it, we can feel the heart start to open. We can feel a peace descending into us. It's not our heart, it's not our peace, it is peace. It is love. And it is real. I think a lot of times we talk about kind of leaving the matrix, unplugging from the ways of the world. There's fear, because it feels like, what are we jumping into? We're jumping into nothing. If I'm not this thing, then I'm nothing. I'm annihilated, I'm destroyed. But that's just the ego telling you that, because it is the end of the ego. But what we really come into is we come into this perfect peace. We come into calmness beyond everything, without any end or limit. Wow. Let the angel choir sing, because it is here in this moment. There's nothing that's lacking here. There's nothing that's been lost. There's nothing sad, nothing frightened. It's just the depth that is. And we come to see that, the world isn't worth it. It isn't worth our attention. It isn't worth our focus. It isn't worth our worry. It isn't worth our investment. Because that's what your choice of where you put your mind is. It's an investment. You are investing your mind either in the riches of heaven, the pureness of Christ, or in the sadness and lack and scarcity of fear and separation. Well, where do you want to invest your thoughts? And I think you know. I think you feel it.
Yeah, there's just fear.
Well, I can't tell you it will be any easier, but I can tell you that you will make it through it. I mean, in the Matrix, Neo had to jump off a building. He didn't make it the
I don't have to do that.
He didn't make it the first time. He didn't make it, but think about how scary that would be to do that. But he started to make it. He started to be able to leap from building to building in the movie. You know, there were some doubt thoughts and worries. What if Neo doesn't make it? Some of the other characters said, what does that mean?
Mm,
Tried and he didn't seem to make it. What does that mean?
mm. Yeah.
But what if we don't have to make it mean anything? You know, in that part of the movie, what was Neo doing? He was in the training modules. He was training his mind. Well, that's where you are. You're in the training modules. You know what was really helpful around how Neo was with the training? In the movie, once he finished one, he wanted to do another one. He was hungry. He was hungry for the shift in his mind. And that is great. We can learn from that. We can learn that we want to also be hungry for our right mind. You know, in the very beginning, we're not used to being in our right mind. We're not used to choosing peace and kindness and forgiveness and healing. It's more like that's less the norm in our experience. But as we stick with it, it goes the other way, where we start to feel really strange if we're not choosing it. Because we're getting used to it. We know we want it. We know we feel good when we choose love and peace, when we look at our shadows for the purpose of unwinding them. It's like we want to grab onto our right mind, like really strong. I sometimes get this image of like this sort of grab, you know? It's like strong. I mean, I like that we do it together.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Lucy.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that line I was looking for. Nothing you undertake with certain purpose and high resolve and happy confidence, holding your brother's hand and keeping step to heaven's song, is difficult to do. You could like this on a t-shirt. You can wear that t-shirt all the time. Maybe you have to wash it sometimes, but then you put it back on because you really want to wear it a lot. Happy confidence, holding your brother's hand. It's good stuff.
Could you read it again?
Nothing you undertake with certain purpose and high resolve and happy confidence, holding your brother's hand and keeping step to heaven's song, is difficult to do. I mean, it sounds amazing. I think we all know it feels amazing because we've all taken these steps. We've all connected in, felt the joy, felt the flow, felt the expansiveness. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be an every now and then experience. It doesn't have to be a sum of the time experience. He's pointing out the way of waking up. And if you're not feeling this, then to ask, what's going on here? What needs to be offered over to Spirit for healing? And to set your compass back on this experience. Happy confidence, holding your brother's hand. This is not the world's confidence. The world's confidence is about, I guess, being proud of the body, or proud of the body's accomplishments, or proud of the body's possessions, or something. Or maybe it's just a mask over deep insecurity. This is not that. This is the confidence of Spirit. Spirit is confident because Spirit knows how this goes. Spirit knows how this plays out. You want to know how this ends? It ends with happiness. It ends with joy. It ends with well-being. It ends with complete perfection. Nothing is left out. No spot of fear remains in the mind. You can know that. You can get that. You can get that that is the destination. That is the inevitable outcome. The only question is, how much do you want to tap on the brakes and how much do you want to hit the accelerator? I mean, it's up to you, but I wouldn't ride the brakes on this journey of happy confidence. There's no need. So if anyone wants to explore this section more, it's the little hindrance. We've been reading this a few times lately. Chapter 26, section 5. Keeping step to heaven's song. Keeping step to heaven's song. I mean, that is telling you it's not your song. It's not your song to figure out, to write, to play the way you think it should be. No, it's heaven's song. And all you have to do is just keep step. What does that mean? You walk to the beat of the music. You know, when you don't feel good, it's because you're not walking to the beat of this heavenly music. You know this music. This music is in you and through you. That means you also know when you're not with it, when you're fighting it, when you're ignoring it. So stop it. Stop fighting it. Why fight it? Why fight love? Why fight joy? Why fight well-being? Yeah. It's kind of pointless and it doesn't feel good. But you get better and better at following it, at staying with it, at realizing when you even slightly start to go off, you're not quite in step. You're close to in step, but there's a little something. What came into my mind? What thought did I have before I fell out of step? Before I started to do my own thing? And that's good. We see it. Let's clear it. Let's raise it up. And let's be diligent. Let's be dedicated to noticing when it starts to be out of sync. Being in sync, being in the flow of spirit is amazing. Again, I'm preaching to the choir because I know everyone here has experienced this. But just remember that that's what you want to do, what you want to go for. And how do you get back in? Well, you just sort of hop back in. If you think about a piece of music that's playing and you start to get out of sync with it, how do you get in? Well, you just listen a little and then you go. You listen a little, like if you're dancing and you kind of get lost in your dance steps, oh, I'm not doing it right anymore. What do? Listen and go. And one. And then you're back in the flow. Well, do it on the dance floor of your life. Do it on the dance floor with spirit. Don't try to take the lead. Holy Spirit is the lead. You just have to follow. It's nice. You don't have to figure out where you're going or what you're doing. You just get to be spun around and have a good time. You know, the really good dancers, they can feel the subtle lead, the subtle turn or twist or gesture that, okay, go this way, go that way, move around that way, we're going to go this way, okay. They feel is really subtle and, you know, sometimes very clear and strong messages too, but they're listening. They want to know how it flows. They want to know what we're doing, how to go. So just remember that's the goal. To be really good at dancing with spirit. It's going to be great. It already is pretty amazing. Okay. My heart is very full with all of you guys. I feel you. I'm with you. We're all here doing this together. So beautiful night, beautiful rest of your day. And we'll see you all sometime soon. Good night, everyone.